Hey you guys, I wanted to read my book that I made, me and my wife. It's only like, I think, $9.99 on Amazon. It was made through KDP Publishing, so, free on my part. I don't know, I just did it because I thought it was fun to make, and if you want to get it, great. Don't feel obligated to. I only get like $1 per book sold, so it's totally up to you guys. But anyway, a World War I tale, flying aces in the sky, and one man will find out that though he's surrounded by enemies and home is far away, he's never truly lost. Never lost. To my wife and our 4 children. Never lost. A World War I tale. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me hath everlasting life. John chapter 6 and verse 47. It was the start of the Great War. I was called to be a pilot. They had made flying machines they called aeroplanes, and I would be taking off in one to defend my country. The call to help my country was one thing, but my nerves still rattled of all that was to come. I decided to take my rifle and go hunting. One last walk in the woods before going to war would be what my head needed. However, when I opened my eyes to a crunch in the leaves, I looked and the sun was going down, but a light shone through the trees. The light was dim now, grew as if someone was in my land and now approaching with a lantern of sort, but this light was a soft, white glow. To my amazement, an all-white deer walked out and looked right at me. I was about to raise my rifle, but I had never seen such an animal. It had its own light, but how? After realizing this, I closed my eyes and thanked God for such a peace, and when I opened my eyes, the deer was gone. With the sun going down, I headed back home. The few seconds I watched him, he stared at me. It felt like hours, and oddly this presence gave me peace. More peace than in nature, it seemed. I decided to go on this hunt just for a fraction of this peace. The morning I left to join the war, I took my personals, and thus my journey began. Arriving, I saw many planes, some in the air, some lined up beside one another on the ground. One soldier yelled for me to watch out. As I turned my head towards a loud sound, a plane crashed right next to me. Soldiers ran to check on the pilot, and one furiously muffled the words, "He's dead." Others then helped me up, and I asked if the enemy was near and had been shot. They told me not many live through training. This realization brought a new fear to me. Knights of the Sky. Pilots I found got their own rooms, and I was even brought tea. Another pilot introduced himself to me. It was nice having such a good conversation after what I had experienced on the first day. The coffee and tea weren't bad either. My first day in the air was not so bad. I had studied the controls that the leaders had taught me. I was scared, but being in the woods made one feel like they were on top of the world. When they felt I was a natural, they put me in my first battle. I was told certain enemy aces need to be avoided, or at least not to be underestimated. I told them I'll shoot, dodge, and just try to get back on the ground safe. After all, I wasn't looking to make a name for myself. I fired the gun on the plane, but the scary part was hearing your enemy's gunfire at you. I made turns and loops, whatever I could do to shake them off and return fire. Within 2 weeks, I had shot down 3 enemy planes. This was a big deal to my fellow pilots. One of the pilots in the last year had 24 kills, asked me to join his squad, to which I said, thanks, but I'm not trying to be great, but return home. He admired my words and said the offer stands, and that with my pilots you have a good chance of being safe. I agreed to join after thinking that being with experienced pilots would be safe. However, they, as I found out, they got the real dangerous missions. We were under attack by enemy planes being led by a dangerous ace, and it was up to us to stop this enemy squad. We were outmanned and outgunned. I saw the leader who targeted me, and we dived to the earth below, and 2 others followed us. Chaos broke out, and some retreated. Me and a few others stayed and fought. I took down and chased off one climbing up the clouds. This achievement made me the next target of their ace. We had the upper hand. We evened the odds, and each of us took at least 2 enemy planes down together. The enemy was retreating, but their leading ace wanted to take me down. I was easy to pick out because we all painted logos on our plane, and mine was a white deer on the sides of my kite. The enemy's guns wouldn't let up on me until finally my plane was hit and caught fire. Thankfully, I was low enough to the ground to land my plane. However, I crashed in the trees that surrounded me. I hit as the enemy searched my plane. The flames engulfed the plane. I was hoping they assumed I burnt up in it. The enemy, though I couldn't understand his language, was furious he couldn't take my deer painting or engine as a trophy. When the enemy left, I made a small fire and I used what was left of my plane for shelter. I had no idea where I was in those woods. Next day was so dark and filled with mist, spooky woods, my mind kept thinking. I felt I was walking in circles. At one point, I found my wrecked plane again and even my leader's plane with him on the ground, a few yards away, dead. I had my pistol, but couldn't find his. That night, my belly growled for food and it was getting cold. I made a small fire again and prayed. When I opened my eyes, a familiar light glowed in the trees. I put my fire out and followed it. It was the white deer, but how? I was so tired, cold, and hungry. I took 3 shots at the deer with my pistol. I know I'm a good shot, but when the gun smoke cleared, the deer was still there, not fazed or alarmed. It calmly walked away. I followed. It was like it wanted me to follow. I only had 3 bullets left. The 2 other times the deer stopped as if to see if I was still following him. I took my time aiming and fired. Just like before, the deer was unharmed and not fazed. It continued to lead me to who knows how far in the woods. At one point, I feared I'd be led to the enemy or death from frostbite. I stopped and fell to my knees. I was about to accept I'd never leave the woods alive when the deer made a faint, distant echo cry. I decided I'd fire one last time at the deer and finally get food. I followed its light and even shouted at it to wait, and it turned at me and walked towards me as I fired my last shot. When the smoke cleared, the deer was gone, but the glow seemed to remain but fading. I couldn't understand what was happening or what to do. The glow made a deer cry again. It left footprints. I followed with what strength I had left. Finally, the glow turned to sunlight. I was out of the woods. Not only was I out of the woods, I was back at my camp. The soldiers confronted me, asking many questions, and helped me to a bed. When they left, leaving me alone, I sat up from bed to a sound outside. I opened the window from my room, and out by the tree line was the white deer looking at me one last time before running back in the woods. I never saw this deer again during the war or after the war, ever. I thank God for that deer. The end. After taking an interest in World War I, I decided to make a story set in that dark part of our history to show even when you're thrown in the darkest part of the world, God is with you. My wife and my mother told me stories of supernatural events such as being saved by a pure white animal from coyote attacks. I also heard stories of this sort from World War I veteran interviews. I also recently in my life took up hunting and being in the woods. All this resulted in developing Never Lost. There it is. Well, thanks for listening and watching, guys. I appreciate it.